Wait, you can hear me. Ha! Okay. Well, we're only starting a few minutes late. Does it sound okay or is it bouncy? And are you getting some feedbacky, bouncy, ba 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 ba, or does it sound fine? What a disaster. Maybe I can edit this. Welcome to the Hostess show. We're starting a couple minutes late because I don't know how to work OBS. OBS hates me, and I've proven that many, many times. So we're going to deal with Hostess, and I'm going to take off my headphones because I hear myself doubled for whatever reason. So, if you didn't hear, I just started a concurrent show, which is a recorded interview show. And my first guest is Jason Liebig, who I, of course, called Liebig because I'm a dork. And you can watch it after this if you're interested. And he and I talk about collecting, talk about his time working in the comic book industry. And this is my new show called To Be Determined. Today, we're going to talk about Hostess. And we're going to start with my most ephemeral, most interesting Hostess piece. It's this little package of Twinkies, but it's not actually a package of Twinkies. It is a cello wrap of it's a Hostess Twinkie package, but instead of inside there being Twinkies, they put little vacuform pieces of Twinkies. So this would have been for a store display, and they would have made all these up. But this is wonderful because it shows you exactly how Hostess Twinkies probably would have been in the very early 1960s, which I think we've talked about on the show before. It is incredibly hard. Seems like there's delay on. We have a delay in addition to all the other problems. Seems like there's a delay on our answers. Yeah, there's always a little bit of delay to there's always a little bit of delay to what's happening with me on the screen. Facebook Live, thank you very much. So I love this piece because it's as ephemeral as you get. It's ephemeral on ephemeral. It's a little tiny piece. It's a piece of cello carefully wrapped around a tiny piece of really light. I mean, this thing weighs like a feather. Plastic shaped like Twinkies. Yes, vacuform. I've never seen another. It's just a wonderful piece, and we'll follow that up with another really super weird piece, the Twinkies Soap. So in this case, they've made a piece of soap exactly shaped like a Twinkie and put it in a little Twinkie cello wrap. I mean, it says Twinkie Soap as opposed to Twinkies, but at a certain point in the late 70s, well into the early 80s, maybe into the mid 80s, Twinkies packages still had Twinkie the Kid on them. I was buying Twinkies at this point, and of course I didn't save any of those cellos like an idiot. Yeah, I started like sort of putting away some food stuff in the mid 80s, and of course, I didn't put away the right stuff, which is what we all always do. So let's just dig right into the boxes. These first boxes I'm going to show you are the non-character boxes, which would have been, early to mid 60s. I have a feeling the characters sort of came around like in the mid 70s. Ho-Hos. Here we have Hostess-filled cupcakes, Hostess-filled Twinkies, Hostess-filled snowballs. I do believe that I own absolutely nothing related to snowballs. I've never owned anything related to snowballs, I don't think. Snowballs are like the kind of a weird, weird stepchild. This is a super great Ding Dongs box because even though it's pre-characters, the graphics are super duper interesting. This one has some tape on it. A lot of times when these guys survive, Cupcakes, Twinkies, Snowballs, Ding Dongs, a lot of times when these guys survived, they were filled with sewing materials. Ho-Ho started in 67. says Brandon. They were filled with a lot of sewing materials, buttons, all kinds of things like that. And now we get to our first, my first Twinkies box. Boom. It's pretty nice. Party pack, 10 for 65 cents. You know, once again, you sort of, when you slap the price on there, it means that this box is going to have a limited shelf life. Does this have? This one says 69 on it. And then we have, you know, some classic Hostess graphics. Lunchbox. Try it with a fruitcake. This one's nice because it's not the most exciting, but it actually has a photo of the Twinkies. So, you know, usually I'm a guy who likes the art, but you know, in this case, it's kind of cool to see the actual photos of the Twinkies since I'm never going to see one of those Twinkies like that probably. And then here's another oddball, Hostess Junior Cupcakes. So there's 12 of them in here. 2, 3, you know, so it's maybe 6 and 6. So these guys are little ones. Devil's Food, always fresh, 12 for 69 cents. And that Twinkies is 10 for 65. So it's probably a comparable sort of time period. Let's see, this one has no date. You know, all that real estate, and they didn't even they didn't do anything. But this is a cutie pie, Junior Cupcakes. I would eat 2 of those right now if that was an option. So let's look at a little bit of older. We'll go back a little older. This is a Hostess Cupcakes wrapper, and for whatever reason, this wax paper they used did not hold up well. And then here's the Twinkies. So once again, tough thing to find. And as we'll see, with the cellos, a lot of times the cellos weren't fully printed like this. They the cellos were just these sort of it was just cello, and then they put a little tiny label on there. And we're going to dig into some of those in a little while. Hostess Ho Ho's wrapper, really nice. I think somebody must have 1966 on this one by the 10-pack. So this might have been what was in the 10-pack. Or maybe it was the grocery store one. Oh, no, it says 10 cents, so it wasn't in the 10-pack. So this would have been the grocery store wrapper. Really nice ho-hos. They also call them yo-hos. And then with with Ding Dongs, I think they also called them King Dons. I don't know if I have any King Dons boxes. And so we had King Ding Dong, but we also had King, maybe it was grease on those cellos. We also had King Dong. So King Ding Dong and King Don are essentially the same character, but I think it's a regional thing. I don't know. And one of the things that I think is kind of interesting about Hostess is with some of these other brands, we have newspaper ads where we can look at the newspaper ads and get an idea. Yeah, those ho-hos, definitely somebody found a roll and then we're cutting them up. That's why they're so beautiful. So, you know, occasionally things like that happen with them. Someone will find a whole roll of this, you know, a whole printer's roll, which might be, you know, sometimes these printer rolls are this big, so you might have 5,000 of these. And then usually it's they start cutting them up and then they just sell them one at a time. And so everybody gets to add one of these to the collection if they can track down that guy. But usually there's not that many people to buy them. But that's one of the things about Hostess is a super regional brand. Not regional brand. I mean, it is a region. Okay, what was I talking about? I don't know. Oh, go back to the advertising. There aren't newspaper ads for Hostess. The only Hostess ads that they really ran were in comic books. We'll look at a couple of those. So you don't really get to see what was going on with Hostess. They didn't have all these national campaigns with premiums and things like that, except when we get to the baseball card stuff. I know. Dan, you keep saying things, then you keep invalidating it. That's what I do. Hostess Twinkies. Here we have Twinkie the Kid. I think this is probably the first box with Twinkie the Kid. Nicely dated on the side, 1971. And on the back, we have a nice little cutout, helping to make sure that none of these survive. And then we have a thing on here. Good for 5 points of Hostess Summer Fun. I don't know what that is. Like, I have a few boxes with this thing to cut out. I've never seen anything what you're supposed to use those points for. It's another one of those mysteries. Let's check chat real quick and see if I'm missing anything important. There are regional conflicts with Drake's Ring Dings. That's why Ding Dongs were called King Dons. Ah, yes, the first Twinkie Kid box. So there you go. It was a Ring Dings thing. We'll look a little bit of Ring Dings today. And like I said, we're going to start with Hostess. Then we're going to go into some of the other brands that. But we're not. We did Peanuts last week, which you can catch up with. Let's see. Now we have Ding Dongs. This one I actually have 2 of. And what you see here is, see this big piece of ink, this big ink mark on there? What would happen was, when these got old enough, when they expired, they would mark them like that, and then they'd send them to the used bread store, which were these stores, they're outlet stores. I think they still have them some places. But what you'd get is essentially week-old bread, week-old sandwich cakes. So unfortunately, some of the boxes you find are these used bread store ones, and you're like, you can't get that off there. It totally ruins it. That doesn't totally ruin it, but you would much rather it wasn't there. And here we have the cutout. And here we, as we see with these 2 different boxes, 12 for 79, 12 for 83. So they must have been constantly reprinting these boxes. Both of these ones say 71. So they probably launched the primary characters all around 71. Let's see what the comments are saying. Were any of these Hostess cakes thought of by the public as a nice dessert? I have no idea. Yeah. I can't imagine you would, go to the birthday party and it would just be piled up with Twinkies, although I do have a little story that's adjacent to that. So we have the cutout characters on the back. We do not have those summer fun points, which I know I have at least one other box with those summer fun points. And then here's the Hostess cupcakes from a similar period. As you see, it's got that stupid pen mark on there. And here's where where classic things get even weirder. On this box, it's not printed. It's actually a sticker. So someone has affixed that sticker to that. So it's not printed on there, it's a sticker. So I have one box where it's printed, I have one box where it's a sticker, and then I have other boxes where it's not even there. The Hostess Cupcakes box does not have a date, but I mean, this box looks like it's maybe from a different time period. Maybe it's from a little earlier. So maybe there's an earlier one. I don't know. And then we have Big Wheels, which have which are basically just Ding Dongs with orange flavored frosting. I think there might also be a chocolate Big Wheels box out there. I don't know. And his cutout kind of goes to the side because he has all sorts of great stuff going on. And that's Chief Big Wheels. He's really cool. Once again, a character that can be construed as racist, or at least, trading on racial stereotypes. I don't know if they still, I don't know if Chief Big Wheel's still around or not. Kind of doubt it. And then the last of these boxes we're going to grab, well, not the last, but this one is a sweetie. Chocolate Twinkies. Devil's Food cream-filled Twinkies. If you're a Twinkies eater, you know that they have these on the shelves right now. And I bought some like a month ago. We've been eating Twinkies a little more than we have in the past. And I didn't find them that appealing. I found the regular Twinkies really good. And I also think I think they've slightly changed the Twinkie recipe, and I gotta say I think it's for the better. I'm sure a lot of other purists would be like, "Oh no, it needs to be the same." Um, let's look at these two together. Chocolate ones are 71 cents. So we've gone. Have we gone down a unit? What does this one say? I thought it was how many? How the heck many are in this one? 13 ounces. And what is this? 16 ounces. Maybe this went from 12 to 10 because this is a smaller box. But as you can see, they just repurposed the art, gave it different coloring. Boom, pretty much the same. So this one's a pretty tough one. This one's a really tough one to find, as is the Big Wheels box, which the Big Wheels box, which I've thrown over here. These are kind of if you're looking for the good ones, these are the ones you want to kind of keep your eye out for. All these boxes are hard to find. The good news is, get this stuff in a second. And then this is what I've got of a Happy Ho-Ho's box. There's my Happy Ho-Ho, and it has a little comic strip on the back, which I don't think I don't know that any of the other boxes had comic strips on the back. I don't know why they would do that, but of course this one has a printing code that doesn't say anything. Just some sizes, no top. Kind of sad. And I mean, if you look at the Ho-Ho, he's just done in marker. He's just done in marker. Somebody just got out the brown marker and went to town. So that might have to do with the, how much time they wanted to spend on that one. This show's going to be a mess. So now we get to, we had the sort of the early Twinkie box. Now we get to what's the contemporary box, which I'm not a master of dating on these kind of things, but it sure seems like this box was made from the mid-70s until last week practically. There is Brandon says there are some other of those comic strips. So this one's nice because it's is this pre-UPC? This is this is UPC. So this probably is mid to late 70s, but it's clean. And as you'll see in a second, the boxes that are most readily available are not clean like this. Oh, whoops, we missed one. And then the comparable box at the same time period, which is another box that I call a clean box, is this Cupcakes. So I'm pretty sure these two would have been, on the shelves at the approximate same time. This Cupcakes box, this one has a date of 72. So the other one, wherever that early one, this one. Oh, this one didn't have a date, but this one's 72. So pretty similar. Same size. The Hostess cupcakes were really, the cupcakes and also the Ding Dongs, pretty stable size. These boxes, stayed the same size. But I've always kind of loved this box because, as you'll see, we have the baseball card boxes coming up, which the ones that got saved are these baseball card boxes because they got saved by kids who like baseball cards. They got saved by baseball card dealers who like baseball cards. So these boxes are, I won't say super common, but they're pretty darn common. Maybe there's some ones that are rarer, but I don't know. So here's your sort of comparable Ho-Hos. We do have a little tiny Happy Ho-Ho there, who's your sort of Robin Hood knockoff. Do this one now, so I don't forget it. Here's a Big Wheels, and this one's an uncut proof sheet. Boom on the back. And what year were these? These are like 75, 76, I think, 74, 75. Um, but these boxes are all over eBay, and they're the easiest way for people to get to own Hostess boxes, because these other weird ones, few and far between. Another Ho-Ho's, Reggie Jackson, and I'm sure some of these are better than others of these based on the players. Oh, here we go. And here we have a King Don's. So this probably would have overlapped with Drake's Cakes, and so in this region they were King Don's. And another thing, I don't know, that's interesting. I've never thought about this, but it's the blue Hostess logo versus the red Hostess logo. I don't know what the difference is. I don't know why. I don't know why. Like on these ones, I just have front panels, and we don't have the king on these at all. So, and this is like another year for the baseball cards. Ugh. So look at this. It says 150 cards. So you have to buy 50 boxes to. They ran from 75 to 79 brand. It says so. That's a lot of different. That's a lot of things to collect if you've got that many years. So there's a ton of boxes. Here's that Twinkies, Steve Garvey. This one's nice because it's got Hank Aaron on the back. I mean, maybe Hank Aaron's worth a little more. I have no idea. The Reggie Jackson version. And the funny thing about these is, like, I've never gone out to collect the baseball card boxes. I don't even know where I got most of them, but I ended up with a fair amount of them. Oh, and this one has a mail away offer for a baseball undershirt. How exciting is that? Baseball undershirt, just what everybody wants. And then a crumb cakes. And as you can see, this one went to the day old bread store. Yeah. Huh. I wonder if King Ding Dong just always has the blue Hostess logo. I don't know. For baseball cards. And the Cupcakes one. So I think that covers most of the characters and most of the brands. And that's the thing about collecting is you just collect and you collect, and at a certain point you look at it all and you're like, what have I been doing? I'm drinking water right now, in case you didn't notice, but you did notice. Here's one that's pretty interesting. It's just a generic Hostess Donuts Box. It has the Hostess, the little house and little birds. But it's it's just such a nice design. The loud not loud characters, but the crazy advertising characters, which I love, are great. But sometimes it's nice to sort of see just this sort of generic packaging. Cupcakes, Twinkies, and Snowballs. So this is that sort of 1969 time period. Some printing codes that I can't remember. Oh, 69 on the back. And Hostess, one of the good things about Hostess is they did date some stuff. Yes, Jason, that is from the Montiki collection. Small world. Let's look at this really quick. So, like I was saying, there aren't any newspaper advertisements for Hostess that I know about. I mean, there may be. Where they did their advertising was in comics. And from the mid-'70s to the late 70s, maybe even in the 80s, they had these superhero crossover ads. And they did both Marvel and DC, where the superhero would have a little comic adventure, and at the end there'd be Twinkies or Cupcakes involved. And like every month, they had a new one. And they did all sorts of crazy characters. And there's people out there that look for the art of these. The art of these strips is available, and this one looks a little. This one looks a little like. This one looks quite possibly that it's Ross Andrew. But this is a nice Spider-Man one for Cupcakes. And, I'm sure you could, every kid that read comic books in the 70s saw these ads because they ran every month. It's like when I wanted to pull these out, I just said to myself, let's find some comics from that time period. And from that time period, the comics I pulled out all had them. So, I mean, maybe they didn't run in every comic. It sure seems like they did. And on the baseball ones, they made these really cool little albums where you could make your little team and all like that. So that's pretty cool. And that's another thing with the Hostess is there's not a ton of premiums. So most of the stuff you're looking for is what does Jason say? Trying to track down the original art for the ads. No luck in the last. Come across a few and they're expensive. Yeah, the ads are expensive because they're comic art, which is comic art is never going to be cheap. Here we have a display. Hey kids, free baseball cards, Hostess Twinkies, Cupcakes. Picture of, we got the characters, and I know, like the first time I saw this display, I lost my mind because I'm not a big baseball guy, but good God, what a display! Super 3D. Has the characters. Just this, the baseball thing was, since they ran it so many years, they really went over and above on that one. Here's another little sign. I used to have tons and tons of signs. I've gotten rid of most of them, but I have a few kicking around. And then the other big Hostess tie-in was Disney. Hostess fruit pies, Hostess and kids. The weird thing about this promotion is it was mainly just done in-store in signs. I don't know of any Disney characters appearing on any Hostess packaging. They just had these signs, and Hostess, they really understood. I mean, other than those Marvel ads, that their sales happened based on somebody walking into a store, walking into a liquor store and seeing the rack, or walking into the grocery store and seeing the rack. They lived by that rack, and I'm sure it was all about their guys in the trucks that stocked those racks would go out there and they'd switch them out. And I mean, when you look at Hostess signs, there are just a million of them. They're just month in, month out, they would just continue to switch them up. There would be ones for summer, there would be ones for fall, there probably were spring, maybe winter. But they would just constantly be running these promotions, which were just promotions for in-store retail things in their own racks. And so they all would have, this one probably had some sort of tab. So they would all slot into the top of the racks. And then one of the kind of other interesting things about the racks, collapse, is in the back of the racks, they would have these big stained glass window signs. And on the side of the racks, they would have these giant character signs. So this is one of them. I'll throw that one to the side. And then I'm going to turn the camera a little bit. We're going to take a little peek at the wall over here. And here are two, there we go, two more of the signs. And so in this, it's a rack, so it's just metal wiring. And then these things were sort of translucent. So if if this was in like the front window of like a 7-Eleven, the light would come and hit the back of these signs, and they just sort of glow. And they're just really beautiful signs. And I remember I was on a trip in New Mexico, and I saw these signs in a store, and I was like, I gotta have those. And so I wrote down what the store was, and it was just like a little convenience store, and I the funny thing is I can't remember. I called the people and I think I was able to buy the signs, or maybe there was another. Yeah, I think I was able to buy the signs, and those are the ones. Those are the ones. So the one thing you can kind of find on Hostess that sort of talks about these signs is they made these little sales booklets. Continental Baking Company. And in these booklets, they would show all the signs and the rackage. And a lot of these things are countertop because we would have had a more general store world back then. And this one's, and here we get some of the early racks. And then, these really classic racks. So those big signs would have been in the back of a rack like this, and would have just glowed. This is, this one's much earlier. This one's probably early 60s. And then I also have this one. As you can see, this one's early 60s. This one's sometime in the 70s. 77. ITT, merchandising, cake items. Boom. And I had some photos which I traded or sold to Brandon, which, here's the Disney ones. And it was just photos after photos of different displays packed with the things. So, I mean, that was, their key to advertising was, more Disney stuff, was to really show it. These are these little vacuum form Disney signs that are pretty common. They would be selling essentially in the store, 3-shelf merchandiser, which I don't know. What is this? This is, this is some printed paper that they would send to you and for strawberry display. And of course, then we get in the back, and that's all Wonder Bread. But Wonder Bread, boring. Here's a couple more. These guys are I don't know. Maybe these were grocery store. And it's just like, talk about a crazy size. Like so long, so thin. Just so for a very particular thing. And then we have the inflatables. Twinkie the Kid inflatable. And they made Achieve Big Wheels. They made all sorts of these, and I don't know, you'd hang them in the windows. I don't know what you'd do with them. Sadly, we don't ever see all the photos of all the stuff that we'd like to see. So as I was saying earlier, the cellos are the hard thing to find. Here's a Cupcakes one. It's got UPC on the back, so this is probably late 70s, and you can see the sort of filigree. And as you notice, this is like a little label size thing, and that comes from the earlier ones would be like this. So this essentially was the packaging, was just this little tiny piece of paper. So they'd wrap the cakes up in cello and they'd glue this piece of paper on there. Here's Howdy Doody doing his hostess duty. I think they did make some, Wonder Bread did some Howdy Doody stuff. I don't know if Hostess did. Tiger Tail's cake. Applesauce. And it's, in the case of some of these, they would have been more like cakes. It would have been larger cakes. Others would be, individual things like Twinkies. And, here's Hostess filled cupcakes. Someone nicely got one of those. And I think I got most of those from a person that collected Wonder Bread stuff. That is most of the Hostess. I'm going to show two quick things. This one is a cut-up Chocodiles box that I personally cut up when I was in college in the 80s and made some postcards that I could send to friends. And I saved one. One of them ended up not getting sent. But I was already interested in this stuff when I was in college. This is probably from like 1986. And I used to have a Chocolate House box, but I sold it because it was more of an 80s thing. Then also in the 80s, I worked at a museum. And so for my birthday one year, they made me a cake which was made out of all Hostess cupcakes and Twinkies. And on this one Twinkie, they wrote, "We like you." And so I made this cheap ass plexi box, and I've had this Twinkie since the 80s, sealed up in there. It's not super well sealed, but as you can see, Hostess Twinkies do not remain soft for years. You cannot eat them for years. They turn into hard bricks, but they still survive. So that's 35 minutes of Hostess. But we're not just doing Hostess today. Oh yeah, that's true. Brandon, of course, mentions Hostess did tons of commercials. So, there's always more advertising. That's the thing about advertising. There's always more advertising. So now we're going to run through a few other obscure companies that also were in the same market as Hostess doing snack cakey items. Boom, Circle K Donuts. Circle K was a 7-Eleven kind of store. Certainly it looks like it's out of Phoenix. We had them here, but here's like their donut brand. They put a little kid on there, and he's got like a slingshot in his back pocket. So, a lot of this stuff you never know. The place where these came from, that place could have also been making Hostess. A lot of times, something like a lot of the potato chip brands, they would brand them with different names in different places. These Circle K donuts could have been the exact same donuts that you got from Hostess. Circle K. The next one is one I love, which is called Tip Top. Here's their take on Twinkies. Twin Treats. Okay. And it looks like Tip Top was a New York company. Very cute. And then Tip Top, we get this one. Here's a little label for some raisin sandwich bread. And then they had a character whose name was Elmo Top. And so here, I think I might have gotten these from Jason. He'll remember since I don't remember. Banana Lucky Cake. And there's a little guy, Elmo Top. Here's a little button, Elmo Top. Elmo Top is a character that I've been collecting forever. And then this is great. Boom, a little magic trick. And what this is this is a little tray that a little cake of some sort would have sat on. And so they print on the bottom. Yes, Jason found most of these little unused labels, and they're just gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous. And then the very first Elmo Top thing I ever found, which is this little remember the two lucky words, please and thank you. There's the button, and then it's got like a little other card on the back, like so ephemeral. A little 4-leaf clover still there. The lucky bearer of this card, the wearer of this badge, and the carrier of this lucky 4-leaf clover is a member in good standing of the Elmo Top's Great Marvelmo Magic Club, and is thereby entitled to all the rights, privileges, and happy things of all good children. Thank you, Elmo. Just beautiful. He's just a great little character with a little whistle. I love it. Next we got Mickey's Cakes, which was another brand. Mickey's Cakes, I know we had them here in Southern California at some point because I remember them. Where were they located? Let me see if I can figure that out. Let's see what this box is. Oh, Burlingame, California. So they, here's like a little weird, little premium airplane, which they probably would have just thrown on a table somewhere and kids could have picked up. And then we've got, here's a Cookbook Mickey's Jumbo Sandwich Bread. This is a bread end label. Once again, another label to seal up a loaf of bread. And these ones are bonkers. Jim Jam. This one's insane. Devil's Delight. 12 cents. I'll take 2. Banana Flip. Spice Fingers. What are these names? Devil's Delight, Spice Fingers, Jim Jam, Banana Flip. Banana Flip. Ah, sounds delicious. I used to have a big display of Mickey, big vacuform, but I sold that to John Anderson, I think. I sold to someone. I think it was John Anderson. John Anderson's a big collector of those. Here's another one that Jason dug up. Orbits. So these are kind of halfway between Cupcakes and Ding Dongs. Nice rocket ship on the back. Going up, hopefully. But, you know, come on. Mickey's Launch Pack Orbits, individually foil wrapped cream-filled frosted devil's food. Oh, so good. So I think we talked about Drake's cakes and ring dings and all the Drake's cake stuff. I've never really collected Drake's cakes, but you know me, I'm always on the lookout for the ephemeral. These are really hard to shoot. These are Drake's Cakes wrappers. This one is for the Snow Ding. Ring Ding Jr. And as you can see, these are just fragile. There's a blue Yodels. It's probably just like a ho-hos. And then a light blue Yodels. Very cool. Very foil. Very flimsy. I've only got a couple of Drake's boxes. Devil Dogs, which are Hostess makes them as Suzy Q's. Some apple pies. I didn't have any Hostess pie wrappers. I've sold most of them. I mean, I used to have a bunch. I sold most of them to Brandon because he collects those. I can't collect everything. Here's a couple more little, these are interesting. This is another little tray with a trading card on it. Cream-filled Snow Peaks. So this actually, well, here's my one Snowballs-ish related thing. This would have held, Snow Peaks probably were Snowball adjacent, made by Nabisco. And then these ones have ads for Millbrook bread. So they were some other kind of cupcake or something. And so these trays would have been there, and then they would have been cello wrapped, and they would have one of those little cool rectangular things. Here's another, and there's another little 50s label. I mean, the printing on these is just gorgeous. I think these are a couple more Jason things, maybe. Perky Pies. A Hostess Pie competitor. Perky Pies. Made these. Perky Pies division. Del Monte. So these are Del Monte. Del Monte's like, we got some extra fruit. Let's throw it in some pies. And here's a Rainbow, which is some other brand. Banana Flip. As we saw with the Mickey's cakes, they also had a banana flip. And we did Dolly Madison last week. And here's some earlier Dolly Madison stuff. And at one point, as you can see, I've got a bunch in here. A guy came to our local flea market, and he had all these printer samples of labels, and he had an envelope that had all these Dolly Madisons. So he was the printer for the Dolly Madison's labels in the 50s. And inside that little thing were all these little different Dolly Madison ones, which were super cute. So it's always nice when you find new stuff at the flea market. Nice Dolly Madison's cakes. This is from an industry mag. And as you can see if you look at those big cakes, they have little labels on the top, and most of the rest of it's just cello. Donuts have to be in a more solid box, but all these other cakes, all the packaging is a little tiny label. And then on the back, we have some other, Dolly Madison was doing some advertising support for their stuff. Women's magazines, things like that. So they were selling to women. Another category that I have very little of is Tasty Cake, which is more of an East Coast brand. I just have a couple of peanut butter candy cake boxes. Whoo! So there we have cakes. Probably rushed through a lot of that stuff. But it's really interesting stuff. You know, it's boxes, it's ephemeral, it's characters sometimes. Let's put that the right side up. It's neat stuff. Neat stuff. I'm exhausted. And as I said, go watch the other show, Interview with Jason. It's 50 minutes long, but it's worth it. And that's only part 1. Part 2 is an hour long. Who's my favorite Hostess character? I mean, you know, it's got to be Twinkie the Kid, right? How can it not be Twinkie the Kid? Although, I love them all, but Twinkies are our go-to snack, so I can't say no to them. So we'll take one last look at this this little ephemeral package. Just so nice. Haven't decided what I'm doing next week. Hope I didn't burn through all this too quick. I knew we had a lot to get to, which it seems like every week we have a lot to get to. And now my house is a complete disaster, or my toy room's a complete disaster. But I'll clean it up, and hopefully next week I'll have the sound figured out. I didn't do anything different this time, but some setting has changed, and OBS was not pleased with me. Thanks everybody. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me on the stream. It's this has been fun, and if you do go watch the interview, you'll see another aspect of what I'm trying to get at, and I think there's a lot of interesting stuff to look at with these things. So thanks, Jason. Thanks, Anna. Thanks. I'm sure. Thanks, Todd. I'm sure Brandon is still back there. Thanks, Global Pop Culture. Whoever you are. I don't know who you are. But I'm going to sign off now. We've done our 50 minutes. Hopefully I can edit down the beginning of the stream for the YouTube, where we don't see quite as much soundless stuff. So thanks, everybody. Take it easy.